I can't decide. We only say that with that sort of venom involved when we are of two minds. Now, there are times in which I am faced with a good choice and a bad choice. And when this happens, the choice becomes easy. There are other times where I have two really good outcomes that I could choose from. And in those moments, even though it's hard, it's delicious because I'm choosing between really good things. But it becomes hard when we are faced with two outcomes that aren't perfect. Maybe they both have some positives and they both have some negatives, or we're in a circumstance where we're trying to make the choice between two things that are the least bad, or I'm trying to find the least worst outcome. And that makes it really hard and we get stuck. And it's hard being of two minds. But did you know there are actually times where when we are of two minds, it's actually not only a good thing, it is the most human thing that we can experience. Today in the podcast, what we're going to do is we're going to explore what happens when being of two minds is actually the healthiest place we can be. This is Gene Monterastelli, and welcome to the Tapping Q&A podcast, recorded live to tape from Williamsburg in Brooklyn. This is episode 636, originally aired November 6, 2024. Hi, everyone. I hope this finds you well, wherever you are and whatever time of day you're getting a chance to listen to this. Thanks for spending a little time with me today. A number of years ago, and it might be close to a decade now, I was watching an episode of Project Runway. And on this particular episode, one of the contestants was really struggling because she had so many ideas and she had a limited amount of time and she had to make a choice. And normally, if that was someone like me, I'd be like, oh, I'm of two minds. I don't know what to do. Do I do this or I do that? Which idea do I choose? But the thing that I loved is the fact that she was a non-native English speaker. And I love hearing non-native speakers use the language because since they don't have the idioms that we can lean on to describe something like being of two minds, they end up describing their lived experience in a much more poetic way, just because they're using the language they have access to. And so the way that this particular Project Runway contestant described being caught between all of these things, as she said, it feels like inside of my brain, there are 100 little brains and they're all fighting with each other, which I thought was the most beautiful, perfect way to describe what it's like to be pulled in all of these different directions as there are these warring factions inside of our head. And when this happens, we can be stuck. Now, one of my favorite things about tapping is it does such a good job of getting us unstuck when we have that mental gridlock of being pulled in multiple directions. If you are new to tapping and have no idea what I'm talking about, all you need to do is go to learntotap.com. Tapping is this amazing tool that I use every single day for myself. I use consistently with my clients. It clears resistance. It clears foggy headedness. It makes making decisions, even in difficult situations, much easier to do. To learn the basics of tapping, like I said, all you need to do is go to learntotap.com. There you'll get all of the instruction that you need. And if you follow the little red arrow in the upper right-hand corner, it will take you to learntotap.com and you'll have access to all of those resources absolutely free. Now, there are times in which being of two minds isn't actually a bad thing. Now, there's a part of us as we're moving forward and we're taking action like, I need to be decisive, I need to be concise, I need to head in a direction, because if I am of two minds, then I'm splitting my attention. If I'm of two minds, I'm dithering between this and that and going back and forth. But there are a number of situations in which being of two minds is actually a useful thing. And the reality is it's not that I am of two minds about which choice I should make. It's almost as if I am of two hearts on what I should be feeling. Because there are times in which we can have conflicting emotional responses to what is going on. And for me, that's actually a good natural thing for us to do. My current favorite tapping phrase is, I appreciate the fact that this is a process, and I give myself permission to be frustrated with the fact that it is a process. So that is a being of two hearts. There's a sense of appreciation and there's a sense of frustration. And I love introducing that particular tapping line to my clients and my students because you see this amazing amount of relief that comes over them. Because intellectually, we can appreciate the fact that something is a process, that there are steps that I need to go through, that there are lessons that I need to learn, that there are people I need to get on board, that there are obstacles that I need to overcome, that there are some things that take time for me to create change. And intellectually, I can be, this is a process, I appreciate it's a process. This is a process, I appreciate it's a process. But if I don't also acknowledge the fact that I'm frustrated by that fact, I am denying part of my experience. Because the part of me that is frustrated by the fact that it is a process is not dismissing the work that needs to be done, is not trying to deny what is real, but instead it is responding to that part of me that wants better. Because that's all frustration is. Frustration is simply the internal guidance system saying, I have a need, I have a desire that's not being met. Hey, 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 pay attention to that thing. And so when I'm going through a process, it is natural for me to be frustrated by the fact that it's a process because I just want the outcome. And it is okay for me just to want the outcome. Now, that can be disproportionate where I demand the outcome right now and I throw a little temper tantrum because I don't have it. That's not what I'm saying. But if there is a part of me that's going, oh, this is so hard. This is taking so long. I can't believe I'm dealing with this. If there's a part of me that is engaged in that particular way and I am denying that, then it's going to be ruminating around in the back of my head. It's going to be this emotion that I'm carrying that I am not acknowledging. And one of the things that I work from, one of the fundamentals that I work from is this idea that fully articulated emotions are short-lived. Our emotions are going to get our attention. Our emotions are going to be noticed. Our emotions are going to be felt and heard. And if I give them the space to be felt and heard, it's going to be so much easier for me to manage them. Because if I don't give them a voice, they're going to show up in some way where they're bursting in like the Kool-Aid man into my life. And so it's good and it's useful for me to acknowledge what is going on. So intellectually, I know I appreciate that this is a process. And emotionally, I know this is really hard and this is really frustrating. Another perfect example of this idea of being of two hearts is when we do a gratitude practice. Because sometimes if I am being grateful for what I have, there's a part of me that doesn't believe I'm being grateful if I'm striving for more. Or if I'm striving for more, then it means I'm not being grateful for what I have. When I get caught between those two things, I become stuck because I don't want to move forward because then I'm ungrateful. And if I'm grateful, it prevents me from moving forward. So again, not only is it possible, it's very, very human for me to be of two hearts in that particular way. I can appreciate and savor the amazing things I have in my life right now. And at the exact same time, I can be in a circumstance where I want to move forward. I can be in a circumstance where I want to see change. I can be in a circumstance where I have growth. And having growth and change and wanting growth and change is not dismissing my appreciation for what is going on. And appreciating what is going on does not preclude me from taking action. So again, it is frustrating when I am faced with a choice of being of two minds. Because I know that one choice is good and bad and the other choice is good and bad. And I'm just trying to find the path forward in that particular way. And so in those moments, I want to find clarity. I want to get that stuff out of the way. But these moments that we're talking about here, again, that I'm calling being of two hearts, where I have two emotional responses to something, like that is the most human experience possible. And if I'm not allowing myself to feel all of my emotions in response to what is going on, I'm denying my own humanity and I'm making it harder for myself because anytime I'm trying to just simply tamp down an emotion and say it is not there, it's going to show up in some way when I am not expecting it, or it's not going to be easy for me to respond to it. So let's just take a few moments and let's just do a little tapping to reinforce and reconnect with this idea. Tap on the side of the hand, take a nice big deep breath. And now what I want you to do is I want you to move from tapping point to tapping point, repeating after me. I recognize the fact I can be in a circumstance where not only am I of two minds, I can also be of two hearts. And when I am of two hearts, I'm experiencing two different emotions. One of those emotions is typically about the short term. And one of those emotions is typically about the long term. When I am grateful for what I have in this moment, that is me recognizing the short-term moment is full of richness. When I want something better, that is about the long-term transformation of my life. When I appreciate my transformation as a process, that is about the long-term growth. When I'm frustrated by the rate of progress and the fact that I feel stuck, that is about this moment. I give myself permission to embrace my humanity, to embrace my humanness, which means that I will have one emotional response to this moment, and I will have another emotional response to the long term. And that does not mean that I am divided. That does not mean that I am in inner conflict. Instead, it simply means I am human, and I give myself permission to feel and hear the emotions of the short term and the emotions of the long term. I give myself permission to feel and hear my humanity in this moment and the desire for my future humanity. I am human, which means I get to experience all sorts of things at once. And even though that can feel overwhelming, that is a place that I can find richness in my life. Nice big deep breath. Big stretch, move around. I just feel more open and more expansive just by acknowledging that. I wasn't even tapping on a particular issue where I feel like I'm being pulled in two different directions, but just giving myself permission to have an emotional response about the short term, about the medium term, about the long term, about all of the possible outcomes, and allowing them to coexist inside of me just makes it so much easier. Because it doesn't feel like I have to make a decision. It doesn't feel like they're fighting, and it doesn't feel like I'm wrong for feeling one of those things. You're human, which means you're going to have all the feels. And sometimes we're going to have all the feels all at once. So I hope you found that useful. It's a disposition that the more and more I've been exploring it, the more and more I've been thinking about it and talking about it with my clients, with my students, we're just creating expansion. We're just making it easier for me to be human in that moment. And hopefully it does the exact same thing for you. If you know someone in your life who would appreciate a little teaching like this, a little reflection like this, please pass it along. The single highest compliment that you can pay to me and my work is by sharing it with someone else. And as we always say, our marketing budget is your word of mouth. So if there's someone in your life who could appreciate this, don't spam your inbox and send it to everybody in the world. But you might know one or two people who could really appreciate this reflection today. And the beautiful thing is, even if they don't listen to what I am saying, even if they don't click play in the email that you send them, the simple fact you've reached out is going to make a difference today for them because they have been noticed. They have been heard. You're thinking about them. I know it sounds cheesy. It feels cheesy to say, but it is true. As you look at the screen right now, you will see the entire back catalog of the Tapping Q&A podcast. We have over 600 episodes just waiting for you there. Click on the little playlist. Enjoy those. I look forward to talking with you and tapping with you again real soon. Bye-bye.